Hey there! Welcome to Professor Purl, a YouTube channel about knitting and other crafts, although just knitting today. My name is Nicole and you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as profpurl. And there's an email for this podcast, which is professorpurlpodcast@gmail.com. I also have started a Ravelry group if you're able to use Ravelry for you to introduce or ask questions for this channel. So it's been 2 weeks since I've started a YouTube channel and uploaded my first video. I was so nervous. And what I didn't expect was just to feel so much support and love. And like my goal when starting this video channel was to find community around knitting, and that's definitely started to happen. There's a lot of comments on the YouTube and also on Instagram and messages, and I really just can't thank you enough. And because of all the love and support that I felt with starting the channel, that was truly unexpected, to be honest. I decided I want to do a giveaway. So I'm going to do a giveaway this episode. And I also didn't think I'd just start doing giveaways right away on my podcast, but here we are. I wanted to share the love. And so I'll do that a little bit later. Before we dive into the knitting, I wanted to actually start off with my Sip Sip Knit segment. So I'm drinking coffee. Is it nearly 3 p.m.? Yes. Am I drinking coffee? Also yes. I actually will drink coffee all day long. Side note, when my students are always like, you don't need coffee all day. Like, you have too much energy, please stop. Working on water intake that is not caffeinated is a serious issue of mine. But whatever, here we are, drinking the coffee, 3 p.m. So I'm drinking Caravan Coffee. And so for the Sip Sip Knit segment, I thought I'd share some Caravan coffee with you, what it looks like, how it's packaged. Caravan is a local roaster to me out here in the Pacific Northwest in Oregon, in the city that I live in. So here's kind of how it's packaged. My mother actually got my husband a coffee subscription for Christmas last year and the year before. So we get 2 Caravans a month, and it's like the gift that keeps giving, truly. And we actually drink more than 2 of these bags a month. And when you stop in Caravan, you can always get a little sticker. And so that's one of their logos. And that's Mount Hood. Mount Hood is really beautiful if you haven't seen it yet. So thought I'd share that. Oh, how do we prepare our coffee? We mostly prepare our coffee with pour overs, like a Chemex pour over. But this December, we did purchase a drip coffee machine. I think it's called a Mocha Master, and so this coffee I'm drinking is prepared in a drip coffee maker called a Mocha Master. It's probably the closest to a pour over like preparation in terms of taste. So it really pulls out those tasty notes. So for instance, this coffee here has pear, chocolate, truffle, and bergamot tasting notes. If you're ever out here and able to visit Caravan, you can do a coffee cupping on Fridays, and it's sort of like a wine tasting, but with coffee, and it can be really fun. So I hope you're enjoying a beverage as well. Perhaps you're not drinking coffee in the afternoon. Maybe you've transitioned to a non-caffeinated tea. All right, so I'm gonna start with my finished objects. I really have 1.5 finished objects. But my one finished object I love a lot. And I showed this last week as a work in progress, and so I'm really happy that it's completed, it is a Love Note sweater. The Love Note is a sweater that typically has a lace sort of motif here. I'll show you a picture of the original pattern. I've knit 3 Love Notes now, and my first 2 were with the lace. So my third one here, I did decide to do it without the lace. And to do that, to do the sweater without the lace, all I did was just knit the pattern exactly as is, but just remove the lace patterning. So I kept all the same increases, everything. So let me grab some things. So I used Hello Stella Fibres for the fingering, which was like a slub. It's definitely way more blown out in this video here than it is in person. And there's definitely like pale pinks and things in it. And then this is the Surrey alpaca, which is from Lamb Good Fibres. So I did do some yarn chicken here. I know there's some people that maybe like knit until there's only like this much left or something. And so, you know, they're probably like, this isn't real yarn chicken, quite a bit left. But I was a little nervous, and I definitely believe in swatching. So here's one of my swatches. And so I remember feeling a little bit when I was feeling nervous about how much yarn I would have on the sleeves, like feeling sad, like I swatched in the round, so I cut it. So I couldn't even unravel the swatch. If I would have knit back and forth, I could have unraveled the swatch, but I did it in the round and then cut my swatch. So this wasn't an option to unravel. So I had a backup plan. Like if I was going to run out of yarn, I was going to like just pull out the sleeves a bit and make them a touch shorter, and it would have been fine. So that was my backup plan. And so for this, I did like a high-low sort of short row shaping. So there's no modifications to this sweater at all, except for the fact that I left out the lace and I did German short rows instead of wrap and turns, I think. And to me, that's like not even like a modification to use German short rows. I honestly would love to know what's your favorite sort of wrap and turn situation. It's really hard for me to imagine anybody liking anything other than German short rows. So just let me know how you feel about that and if you agree. And so yeah, the sleeves are just, I do them the same, just as the patterns advocates for, and they're fantastic. They're so fantastic. So the other thing I do is I put like, usually I put a contrasting ribbon or yarn in the back so I can know what side's the back, because it's very clear that there's a high-low hem and this is a low, but sometimes in the morning when you're putting it on, you're like unsure what's the back very quickly. And so I like to have it marked. So in terms of like commentary about the slub yarn and sweater making, I decided to do a sewn bind off or a tubular bind off. So that's a bind off that like really just is a very fluid kind of bind off that is, I think, very beautiful because you can't see where your knitting ends and starts, and I just think it's gorgeous. I decided to do that with this yarn. It was very slow and I ended up quitting. Surrey and slub together are not good for a sewn bind off. Because basically with a sewn bind off, you need to have your length of your yarn 4 times as long as what you need to bind off. And so it was quite a long piece of yarn. I was getting tangled. And even weaving in ends, the slub was getting tangled when I was weaving in ends. So my strategy for that was I actually would just like look at the yarn, and where the last slub is, I would cut it and I would only weave in the non-slub part because it was getting to be challenging to weave in with this. So yeah, so the reason why this is my third love note is it's an epic sweater. If you haven't made one yet, you really need to. I think it looks good on everybody. There's so many sizes for it. I've said all that like the last episode. So I'm pleased that that is done. All right, so my other finished object is a half object, which is why I said I had 1.5 finished objects. And that is this very cute pencil sock. Like what? This pencil sock is the Make Your Mark sock from Purl and Postulates, and they actually sell a little kit. Last time I showed this, last episode, they did not have any in stock on their website. But I checked this morning and they do, and they're on sale. And they have some colored penciled sets too. And so that's fun. And the other thing that's really neat is this pattern this month is a free digital download too. I don't have it digitally, I just have the paper copy, but I could go and get it digitally now, so that's really cool. Okay, so I'll hold this up so you can see it. So this is a toe-up sock, and I am definitely a fan of cuff down, 9-inch needles. Like if I'm doing a sock, that's how I like to do it. This, I did it toe up and magic loop, but that was purposeful. I'm participating in the Crazy Sock Lady Summer Sock Camp, so I wanted to do something different to enter a finished object in a different cabin. Also, I mean, I recognize I can't submit this yet. I have to knit another sock, but I have it as a whip, so there's hope. It's only mid-August. The other thing is I'm doing the Shopyarnia Yarn Bingo, so I was thinking like this would get me more entries doing other techniques. So yeah, so one of the new techniques for me in this sock was a Turkish cast on. I've done Judy's Magic cast on for toe up socks before. It was my first time doing a Turkish one, and I also in my whip, like the second sock I've started, I've done it a second time. I love it. I love the Turkish cast on so much. I was like, maybe I'll like toe up socks better now. Like it's incredible. It's super easy to do, and it's just really beautiful. I don't know if you can see like how beautiful it is, but I just, Team Turkish cast on, it was super great. Okay, so the other thing that's newish for me is, I mean, I know how to do a sewn tubular bind off, but it's something I'm working on in terms of tension and things. So I did that, did the sewn bind off here. I don't think you can control a lot with the sewn bind off. So it's like something I'm working on, but I'm glad I did it. And this is my first Shorty sock. A lot of people say Shorty socks go faster for them. This did not go super fast for me, and I just don't know if it's because it was toe up, if that's why, or I don't know. It has an afterthought heel. I did not follow the pattern exactly for two things. One is there's a stitch repeat for like the pencil here. It's two row repeat. And I only did one of the rows. I don't want to like, I guess it's a free Ravelry download now, but I think normally you might have to pay for it. So I'll let you look at that and see what I mean later if you end up getting it. And then the other thing was the pattern suggested continuing this sort of like ribbing pattern in the heel. And it's an afterthought heel, or I would call it a forethought heel. But I decided to not continue the pattern in the heel. I wanted it to look like there was this pencil that suddenly had a heel, and so I just knit the afterthought heel and stockinette, and I really like the way it looks. So this is a nice transition to my whips, which I mean, it's like a barely whip. I started it yesterday and it's so cute though. So here's what's fun about this, that I've done the pencil lead for the whole sock, right? Like here and even my whip, I've done the pencil. And look how much is left. So I was thinking like, I've got enough like of the wood color and this and this and this left, like very generous amounts that really I could knit a whole nother pair with this kit of pencils if I just substituted this yellow with something else. And so I thought that would be so fun, maybe to do like a green pencil or, you know, some other color pencil. And so my goal is to finish these by the end of August for summer sock camp, and also just like to celebrate sort of the start of the school year and things. I couldn't be more pleased with these, and I love the way they fit, which is also really interesting because I tend to think that the heel flap and gusset fits my foot the best, but really this fits fantastic and I'm just really excited about it. So I'm going to transition to talking about my main whip. It's pretty much the main thing I worked on for the past 2 weeks. And that is another Christmas sweater. I mentioned it the last podcast that I wanted to make it, called the Yule Gran. And I had just cast it on. And let's see here. And I made a lot of progress on this. I really didn't think I would make this much progress on it. In May, my husband, Matilda, and I, we went to Disney World, and while we were on vacation, I got no knitting done. None. I was just having a great time and really tired at night, and it just didn't happen. Well, on my Wiscation trip, there was a ton of knitting. I mean, maybe this doesn't seem like a lot, but it truly is for me. But this is a little bit of a fiddly knit while traveling. Like if you're knitting it at home, great. But like on an airplane, like outside of the cabin, like this was tough to knit on the go. And so, you know, every row would sort of take a while. And yeah, so it's knit in pieces and then connected. So there's like 3 main pieces that are knit, and then it's connected to be in the round. So you don't knit it seamlessly in one piece. And so that's the part that made it a little bit fiddly. And some sweaters, there's a lot of stockinette knitting and just like plain knitting. This feels like there's something going on almost every row, really. So it did require some concentration again. So it wasn't necessarily like the best like Wiscation project, but it also was because I love it. And I'm knitting it in Judy's Mint, which is the name of the colorway, from my friend Kelly. She has a yarn store, Les Moutons Rouge Knittery, and I think her yarn label is called Red Sheep. I don't have it with me. And you know, she's got a lot of great colorways. So this is my humble opinion, but I think this is her best colorway. I love it. It's got such, like, I'll show you the backside. So this is the backside. The speckling on it is just so even, and it's not pooling or anything. And even when I was knitting kind of a smaller little section here, again, and then the speckles in person are just, I don't know how they're showing up on the camera, but they're really vibrant because it's a pale mint, and then there's these like bright blue and yellow speckles. I love it. So I did not show the pattern, so it might be hard to see, but right in the middle here, this is the front, there's a tree forming, so there's gonna be a tree. And then this will be the collar that I will pick up, and it'll have a kind of mock turtleneck that is folded over, and then I'll pick up and it'll have sleeves. And there's this little detail here that'll be around the armhole, which I think is really cute. And then underneath the armhole, there's this other detail that's forming, which is a nice little stockinette stripe down. And so this is the right side, this like reverse stockinette, and then the chart, which is the tree, is in stockinette. To be honest, I'm a little bit sad about how my tree is turning out. My tree, for me, is like a little bit sloppier looking than I'd like. And so I went onto Ravelry, I think on Sunday. On Sunday there was 313 Yule Gran sweaters on Ravelry. And I was going through nearly all of them. And nearly all of them, their trees look better than mine. So it's definitely a user error here. I don't know why my tree is sloppier than other people's. I tend to pride myself in having a nice consistent stitch and like reading charts well. I thought about ripping it back, but I didn't. And the reason why I didn't was because in 2016, I had a really big issue with like perfectionism in my knitting, where I would like just keep ripping things back, ripping things back, ripping things back, and starting it over to almost like a toxic space. And so I just decided, like, it's not that bad. Like, it's just me being a perfectionist, and like nothing's gonna ever be totally perfect. And that's, I mean, you should always knit something that you're gonna wear. So I think some people will give you advice that if you make a mistake, it is worth going back and like fixing it. And I totally believe in that. This isn't a mistake. This is just me like being unhappy with maybe a stitch or something. And I do believe blocking will help things. When I pull on the tree and kind of pull it out, it does look really good. So I'm just gonna go with it and continue. And it's not gonna prevent me from wearing it. And I love it. My intention wasn't originally to put like red beads on the tree, but I didn't purchase the red beads, so I didn't bring them with me on my trip. And I just didn't think I'd get to the chart on my trip. I thought I would be lucky to get the upper back done, and I ended up getting this like this far. Sort of my commentary about the sweater is there's some people out there, maybe you're one of them, that like don't like purling. And if you don't like purling, this is maybe not the sweater for you, because there's not really a good way to hack it so that there's no purling. And what I mean by that is it's knit in pieces and then connected and then knit in the round. And so there's no way to really avoid purling. You're going to have to purl at some point in the garment. And so if you don't like purling, this is probably not the sweater for you. I don't mind purling, so it's a great sweater for me. I am currently in a situation with this where I'm purling in the round. If I had read the pattern through, I would have maybe like tried to hack it so that I could be like knitting in the round, because I just knit faster than purling. So I'm just gonna continue on the way it is with the chart and everything, where I'm purling in the round. But I do think for the sleeves, I will maybe turn the sweater inside out and kind of hack it so I can knit in the round instead of purl in the round. And it's not because I don't like purling, I just think that I just wanna finish it as fast as possible so I can knit my next sweater. That's why. So yeah, this is pretty much the main thing I am working on, and a sock. Are there other whips in the closet? Oh yes, oh yes. Am I working on them? No, but so I just wanted to share the two things that I've been working on for the past 2 weeks. And okay, so the other segment of this podcast I really want to share is well-worn knits, like knits that I wear regularly, that I get a lot of, that get a lot of love, and that I'm really proud of. And this well-worn knits today is actually going to be related to my giveaway. I'm not giving away the knit. So, okay, about 2 years ago, so like 2 summers ago, not last summer, the summer before, so 2019, I made a Tenga, which is a sweater designed by Caitlin Hunter from Boyland Knits. I knit it in Hedgehog fibers in a colorway called Iris. And I purchased it from my friend Kelly's yarn store. And I purchased 3 hanks to make it. And I actually only used, I think like 1 3/4. And I knit the cropped version. I could have made it longer, but I didn't, because how I wear it and style it is I have this like high-waisted skirt with like stripes from J. Crew that I got in 2015, so it's quite old, but I mean, it's not that old. People have much older skirts than that. So I've had it for a while, so I'm trying to say. And I always like will pair this with it. I keep thinking I'm gonna like style it a different way, because I do have a kind of light blue denim dress that I have worn this over, but ultimately I just always wear it with that skirt, because it just, I think it looks really cool, the contrast of the stripes with these like, with these speckles. I love this colorway. It's very me. It's pink, and then there's these like rust and orangey speckles and kind of turquoisey ones. And I think when I knit it, I remember at the time feeling like really like a rebel for doing a lace pattern with speckles, because sometimes Sometimes lace can get lost with the speckle, but I think it looks really neat and I wear this so much. And the thing about Hedgehog Fibres sock yarn is it feels very light and airy. It almost has like a cotton feel to me, in my personal opinion. So for me, I actually wear this a lot. We have very moderate weather out here in the Portland area. And so I will wear this in the summer. Not this week, it's gonna be really hot this week, but I have worn it in the summer. I wear it in the spring, I wear it in the fall, I wear it in the winter. I've actually worn it with like a cardigan over it even in the winter. So yeah, this is a well-worn, well-loved knit. So what does that have to do with a giveaway? Is I have this extra hank and I've had it in my stash for a long time. And I keep my stash, just side note, I have different weights of yarns and different projects organized in like 15-gallon Ziploc bags. And then I store that in rubber band containers, and or I have these IKEA units in a closet, like those like cubes. And so it's been stored safely, and I had this extra hank. I always envisioned maybe doing socks out of it or something to match my sweater, but I haven't. And really, I just think it's so beautiful. I want to share it. So because it's coming from my stash from a sweater I knit 2 years ago, it does have the old Hedgehog Fibres label. They have a new label now that's really neat with like iridescent things. I don't have anything with their new label yet. Sure that'll change one day. So this beautiful hank, I just would love to share it with one of my viewers. If you are interested in entering this giveaway, all you need to do is be a subscriber of this podcast and make a comment below. And for your comment, you can share anything you want. Introduce yourself to me, say hi, tell me what you're knitting, or tell me what sort of sock you'd like to knit with this, or like what kind of project you'd make with this. If you have a particular sock pattern you do, let me know. Or if you have a different plan for this, I would love to know. But I do think these would make pretty cool socks. I did want to talk a little bit about dream knitting. So 2 podcasts that I enjoy watching are This Manny Knits, Lucy at This Manny Knits, and Fiberbound, Alexandra hosts at Fiberbound. And those 2 podcasters, I did not realize were friends. I was just watching both of those, and then suddenly they're proposing an Ankers knit along, like Ankers Love Knit Along, where any of the Ankers patterns you can knit and participate in their knit along. And each one of them has a Ravelry group associated with it, and there's a hashtag for Instagram you can use. And I've knit 2 Ankers cardigans, and I showed one the last episode that I've made for Matilda. Still need to sew the buttons on, but it's too hot out right now, so I don't feel guilty that I haven't sewed buttons on it yet. I need to buy thread is the situation for that. But I was not intending on casting on another sweater, but it is on my mind. And so I have purchased the Ankers T pattern, the adult one. And I am thinking about knitting that for the knit along. For sure for their knit along, I'm gonna knit the Ankers doll sweater, which I was intending on doing last week as well, but I'm also thinking I'm gonna do the adult T. So I went through my stash, and initially I had bought this yarn from Cedar House Yarns at the Rosa Yarn Crawl 2 years ago to make Matilda an Ankers cardigan. And because she's gotten picky, I let her pick her own color out, and she didn't pick this. And so I have these 3 hanks. Well, now it's not a hank. Now it's a cake that I wound up. And the colorway is called Cervidae. And it really does remind me of deer or something. It's sort of tan in the right light. When I purchased it, I thought it was purple, but once you're out in the sun, it definitely has more of a pink undertone to it. So it's just this very interesting color to me. I'm pretty obsessed with it because I don't even know how to describe it. It's like sometimes I think it's pink or mauve, sometimes I think it's tan. And so I was going with my stash. I've got quite a bit. I could do it in a different color. I really wanted to do it in this. The challenge I've encountered with it is after purchasing the pattern, measuring, I would be playing a bit of yarn chicken to only have 3 inks with it. And by yarn chicken, I mean, I don't think I have enough. It's not even yarn chicken. To swatch and the size with enough positives that I want, I just don't think this is enough. And so I needed to buy a 4th one. I bought this 2 years ago. And so whichever one I purchase, it's not going to fully match this. Although with hand-dyed yarn, it never fully matches anyway. And so I'm feeling a little bit of reservation about that. But what I did this morning is I actually went onto the Cedar House Yarns website to see if they had any in stock to kind of like help me make a decision about that. Well, who knew? On their website, basically, it's dyed to order yarn. So you can get whatever you want for as little. I mean, no minimums, dyed to order. I'm like, hello. Because like, I really like their yarn. It's beautiful. And this is super soft. Like, I can't even describe it. It's incredibly soft. And so I bought one more for dyed to order. And obviously you can, when you have an extra skein that doesn't kind of match your other ones, you can just alternate your yarns instead of just using one single one. So that and you should always do that sort of with the hand-dyed yarn. You can be strategic, like with my other sweater I'm not alternating, but I have knit it strategically that I will eventually maybe alternate a little bit, but I'm not alternating for the entire sweater. So I definitely could solve it with alternating. My other thought is that maybe I should wait to cast it on until the 4th skein arrives, because it can be a nice transition to go from like if the yoke only takes like 1 skein, let's say the 4th skein that shows up is a little bit darker, I could knit the 4th skein in the darker color and then it would transition to these lighter ones and it would look fine. So I'm definitely gonna swatch for it while I wait and see what happens. And the knit along runs from August 9th, which was 2 days ago, until I think October 9th. Again, check their Ravelry groups out and Instagram for details, but I think it goes to October 9th. So even if I just delay casting it on a couple weeks, I should be fine to finish it by October 9th because it's a short sleeve sweater that I'm going to make. But for me, I think I can't. Like, this is the most beautiful fall looking color to me. I think I intended it for Matilda, but I'm actually really glad she didn't pick it. And now I get to use it, and I think it'll be a really great Ankers. I'm not sure if I'll cast it on this week, but I definitely will probably swatch for it at least. Okay, I'm gonna share next so my sort of acquisitions that happened over the last 2 weeks, and then after that, personal things. So if you're not interested in seeing kind of some yarn haul and you're not interested in personal things, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your support. All right, for my stash enhancements, the first thing that came in the mail was from my mom. I have a birthday coming up and she sent me an early birthday present, which of course was yarn. So my friend Kelly, the owner of Lemouton Rouginerie in Illinois, at the end of July had a kind of an event called Yarnival. Yarn plus a carnival, adorable. And so she had all kinds of things that were very like carnival. Like she even bought a Ferris wheel to like, I keep saying that she bought a Ferris wheel. She bought a Ferris wheel seat to take pictures in. There's a big difference between a seat and a Ferris wheel, but anyway. So she also had these bags that were like, if you couldn't attend, like kind of a virtual Yarnival bag. So it came in the mail It's my birthday present for my mom. And it is this very like tent looking thing, but it's a tote bag. But it looks like a carnival tent. And I tried to leave it together to show, but I just realized that one of the things in it is missing already because it's in my purse. So one thing that was super cute that came in there were these mini skeins, and there's this crinkle noise because the mini skeins came in like a fry container. And I just, okay, I left them in the fry container so you can see, but I'm gonna take them out now. No, after this podcast, I'll probably throw the fry container away. I really like these mini skeins, and there was a full hank included with it, and so perhaps you could do some sort of project with the full hank and the mini skeins. But for me, I just know immediately that I want these 5 to be a sock together. I just think they're so cool together. I love that there's a sort of like a darker one with these ones, and then there's like tonals and a speckle and a variegated all together. I think it's fun, that mixture. I didn't look to see if these had names. But I just think they're really cute, and I'm super excited about these. Okay, and then there was a whole hank of yarn in here. Oh, this one does have a name, so it makes me feel like maybe the other ones do have names. This one says Yarniversary Cake, because it was her store's anniversary. Okay, this one. Oh, and there's your label, there we go. That red sheep. Okay, this color is totally me. It is called Summer Sweets. I do think that like some sort of project like this could be really fun. I just know myself, and I think that I would really enjoy this by itself as a sock. I'm having all these like sockspirations, like, oh, I want to knit this sock and this sock and this sock. But then reality is I'm actually a pretty slow sock knitter. If I can get 1 pair a month, like I feel like that's incredibly fast for me. I know it's like other people are much faster sock knitters, but okay. I'm so excited about these. These are amazing. Okay, and then there was more in the bag, and this is what's missing. There was 2 of these really nice sort of lip balms, but there's only one now because one's in my purse. And the one in my purse is a cotton candy one. I'm a huge cotton candy, like everything fan. Cotton candy real life, yes. Cotton candy, like ice cream. Have you ever had cotton candy ice cream? Yes. Cotton candy lip balm, also yes. There's a cotton candy tea from David's Tea. That is incredible. Anyway, this one is, I don't remember, I think it was like caramel popcorn or something. Yep, caramel popcorn lip balm. Handmade in Jacksonville, Illinois, and I've never had their lip balm, but I have had like some sort of like lotion bar that they sell that I've also purchased from Kelly at her store, and I really like their products a lot. Their lotion bar is a little bit greasier than the Tough Woolens, if anybody uses Tough Woolens, but I actually like that for like super rustic projects. Okay, and the last thing that came were these stitch markers. Let's see if I'll be able to show them all, but this is my personal favorite here. It was the fish in the bag. And part of the reason why I love this fish in the bag one so much is actually this year in the fall, I rescued 2 fish. In the biology lab, there was some sort of experiment going on with these fish where they were dyeing the scales, and I rescued them and brought them home in a bag. That made me think about it. And because they were part of this experiment where they're reducing the scales, like the fish are changing colors constantly. So when we came back from vacation, one of the fish actually completely transitioned from to its more golden self. And it's just wild to me because one of the fish was like this black and green sort of color, and now it's just not at all. And Kyle keeps telling me my husband keeps telling me to email one of the biologists and be like, please tell us what in the world you did to these fish. Like, our fish are thriving. We like bought them like a legit tank, and they're like they're really living their best lives right now in our tank. Okay, so that is the Yarnable bag. Oh, there's other things too, like the Coke bottle one and cotton candy. Okay. So the other part of my yarn haul is, so when we went, and I have to talk a little bit about personal stuff with this, is when we went on Wiscation, Wisconsin vacation, we flew into Minneapolis, and then we got a rental car, and then we drove to Stone Lake, Wisconsin, and we stayed on a cabin like on a lake, Stone Lake, for a week. And then we took a day trip to St. Paul, Minneapolis, and then at the end of the trip, we went and we stayed at a hotel in Minneapolis and did some things around Minneapolis, and then flew home. So while we were in Minneapolis, one of the things that I did was I wanted to visit a yarn store, and I knew that Stephen B had a yarn store in Minneapolis. I never thought I would ever go visit it, but I was like, goodness, I'm in Minneapolis, I might as well. And it did not disappoint at all. And when you pulled up to the yarn store, there was this beautiful mural with butterflies and across the street, and then Stephen B's building has this like zebra print on it, and it's 2 floors of yarn. I actually never went to the second floor. I only went onto the first floor. And while I was there, it was pretty busy. And even though they were busy, Stephen B came out and he said hi. But first he said hi, not to me, but to my husband and Matilda. And he was really sweet to Matilda, and actually gave her a little goodie bag as soon as he met her, which I thought was so sweet. I actually kept the little goodie bag, and it's kind of falling apart because Matilda's 3 and was like playing with it. This is Mama Krista's scrappy kit. So it's a bunch of like scrappy yarn so that she could like play with yarn while she was in the store while I was looking around. And so there's just all these like fun I mean, it's loaded up with like tons of scraps. And like there's even like eyelash yarn and like I just thought that was fun. It was nice. It was just sweet for Matilda to be seen like that, like while in a yarn store. And so why did I not go on the second floor? On the second floor, I should have gone on. I think I was just feeling like overwhelmed. I had this tendency to feel overwhelmed when I'm surrounded by like so many good things. And so the second floor had bulky yarn, and so like I know he has like inventory of knit collage, like that would have been really cool to look at, but I didn't even walk upstairs. There's also cotton yarn upstairs, which I don't really like to knit with, so I think most of the wool was downstairs, and so I think I just found enough downstairs. I didn't even need to go upstairs. But while I was downstairs looking around, there was an incredible selection, well curated. There were chandeliers in the store. Like, it was really neat. So the first thing I picked up was all these little mini skeins. Like, do I need more mini skeins in my life? Like, no, I don't. Do I have any idea what I'm making with this? Also no. But I thought they were really cute. And then it's Harry Potter's Years 5-6, and it's made by Canon Hand Dyes. And so you can really, if you are somebody that owns the Harry Potter books already, like you can see sort of the inspiration really in those. And so there's 24 of these total, and they're 20 yards per color. So this is a smaller mini skein than I'm used to. So 24 times 20, So that's 480 yards. So it's sort of like a single skein of yarn really, equivalent. So I'm not sure what I will do with all of this. I'm not sure. If you have suggestions, I'd love to know. But I just knew that I wanted it. So that was one of the purchases. Okay. I love this. And I hope it doesn't blow out. I hope it's as epic. I don't even just, it won't be as epic as on the camera as it is in person. So this is a yarn company from the Netherlands. And, you know, it's just not something I've ever seen stocked anywhere. And so it was my first time seeing it stocked, and I was like, oh, I have to get something from there. And it was really tough to pick the yarn from this brand that I wanted, because there was mini skeins, there was even like mini mohairs, which I've never seen before. So you could do sort of like a stripy thing with a sweater. So that would have been really neat. Here's the label. I ended up picking this because I'm just such a pink fan, and in person, it's not just plain hot pink. It's kind of like a tonal hot pink, like a tonal, as tonal as hot pink can be. That there's, I would say, at least 3 different shades of hot pink I can see in it. I don't know if you can see this is not speckles, those are tweeds. So it's like a hot pink tweed. And I don't know, most of the tweeds I've purchased or used are very like classic looking. And so I just thought it was just a really cool kind of contrast where it's like this classic tweed with a very vibrant pink. And I was thinking that I would make one of 2 things with it. I could make a hat with it, and I would wear it. And it would be really neat on my bike or on a walk to have a bright hot pink hat, or socks. And that would, I would use either of those things. And I'm so excited about this. Okay. And the next thing I got was, I'm a sweater knitter, and so I knew I needed to get a sweater's quantity of yarn while I was at Stephen B. And so I had a tough, I just felt overwhelmed by like there's just so much that I could choose from. So I ended up deciding to get something that I could only get there. And so I bought a sweater's worth of this. In person, it's a little lighter pink, and there's like some tonal grays in it. I'm not sure if that's showing up or not. So this is dyed by 3 Irish Girls yarn. I don't know for sure, but I think it must be exclusive to Stephen B, since it's like his logo there and it says binge knit. And I can see why it says binge knit, because like it's just beautiful and it feels so good. I think this is worsted weight. Yeah, this is worsted weight. And I was gonna say I don't knit a lot of worsted weight sweaters, but the sweater, my Christmas sweater is worsted weight, and then this is worsted weight, so that's it's kind of funny because, yeah, I have knit actually quite a few worsted weight sweaters. But anyway, it's a great base to knit a sweater on because it goes quick. I'm not fully committed to what sweater I will knit with this, but what I did when I was in the yarn store and I felt overwhelmed by all of the things that I could pick from, I decided to just open up my Ravelry queue favorites and look through and see what were sweaters I had recently queued or favorited that I could buy yarn for. And so one of the sweaters I picked was, I think it's called, I should have written this down and show notes, but I think it's called Fiona or Fonda by Boyland knits. But I'll put it here what it's actually called, but basically it's a short sleeve sweater with a lot of bobbles. And I was like, I could see myself really wearing that a lot, and at the time I was like, I don't have a short sleeve worsted weight sweater, but then when I got home I realized I definitely do have a short sleeve worsted weight pink sweater, so this would be if I knit that, I will have this will be my second worsted weight pink sweater. And this would not have a turtleneck, it would have bobbles. So, I mean, it's totally different styling. So I bought 5 hanks because that seemed like enough yardage for me to do that. Okay, then I did buy 2 notion-y things, and the first notion thing I bought is actually in use, which is, again, I didn't think I would get so far on my knitting on vacation, so I started off on a tiny cord, and I needed a bigger cord to join in the round, so I had to buy a cord while I was there so I could keep knitting, and that was really convenient. So I bought a cord there. Now these are Nitpick Needles. My mom and dad got these for me for Christmas when I was in my early 20s, and I think I was like 24 the year I got them, and it was my first circular knitting set, and I still use them. And I'm gonna be 38 this August. So, you know, that's 14 years. I have wore out one of the tips and had to replace them. I don't know what will happen because I don't think they have this rainbow kind of color anymore. I don't know what will happen when I wear those ones anymore out. I'll probably just have to buy something that's not the same one, but they've treated me really well. I mean, I've had them 14 years and it's going strong. And this cord is not Nitpick's, I think it was Knitter's Pride, but it fit these needles just fine. So, and I have an extra cable in my set, so that's nice. And the other notion-y thing I got was this little kind of keychain I could put on a bag that's like for a gauge swatch. I actually don't use these very often. I like to just measure it with like stitch markers and things, but I liked that it said Stephen B on it. I don't know if that's showing up at all. And I liked that this was kind of iridescent-y pink. So yeah, so that was one of my purchases. And then when we bought everything, it was packaged in this really iconic zebra print bag. So I thought that was so cute. And I just felt really special when it was in there. Like there was a lot of attention. I had 2 different employees come and want to like help me, and Stephen B was talking to me, and he said like if I ever had any questions or had trouble finding something to reach out to him. And so it was a really neat experience, and definitely I feel like a really neat destination trip. So if you were on vacation somewhere in the Midwest, I can see that being a really fun trip to take. And I had a great time in Minneapolis. So I will transition to talking about full personal non-knitting things from this point forward if you don't want to stay. So the first thing I want to say about my personal stuff is that I got a ton of airplane knitting done, which seriously, like from Portland to Minneapolis, it's a small plane. So it was not like normally when we fly, it's like Kyle, Matilda, and I, 3 of us like in a row. But it had to be just Matilda and I because it was a smaller plane. And so my husband was like napping, and I was like, man, with a 3-year-old. And she's flown a lot and she's an excellent flyer. But I think it's one thing to be a really good traveler as a 3-year-old, and another thing to let your mom read and knit the entire plane ride. And I did. I knit and read the entire way to Minneapolis and also the entire way home. And so that was really, really neat that happened. So did I finish any of my books that I showed last episode? No, but that's what happens when you read 3 books at the time. I am almost done with like all 3 of my books, but well, that's not true. A Court of Thorn and Roses, I am halfway through, but the other two books, Queen of Shadows and Hamnet, I'm nearly done with. I'm like just a few nights away of reading, of getting those done. But I sometimes I'm like, goodness, I should just read one book because then I could like finish them quicker and feel more accomplished. But yeah, spreading the love. But nonetheless, I felt that that was really fun, that I was able to do those things on the plane with my daughter. So she just entertained herself with drawing, writing, and we did bring an iPad for her to watch some movies on, and I try to say that towards the end of the flight when she gets a little restless, and in both flights she did take a nap as well, so it was great. And I would say that definitely the flight is always Matilda's favorite part of any vacation. She loves the airport. And it is always her favorite part of traveling, just so funny to me. And at Stone Lake, it was really just a lot of relaxing. So there was a lot of time on the water, a lot of tubing. By a lot of tubing, I mean other people were tubing. I did go tubing, but I didn't tube a lot. I think collectively, I probably tubed 5 minutes. Tubing is a lot harder in your 30s than it is when you're younger. So that was really interesting, like how sore I was from just a little bit of tubing that I did. And there was a lot of boat riding, kayaking. My favorite part on the water was stand-up paddleboarding, and a little ways down from the cabin we were staying at, there was an eagle pair of eagles. And so I think like my favorite memory is stand-up paddleboarding to go look at the eagles. They were just so majestic looking, and that was really neat. My other favorite part of the trip was actually Minneapolis. I am like a very avid museum goer. Like my husband Matilda and I, we love going to museums, and so I couldn't like wait to go. Like that was just like a really neat way to end the trip, is to go to a museum in Minneapolis. And so I was having a hard time trying to decide between going to the Swedish Institute or the Bakken Museum. I really only had time to go to one of them, and the Bakken is what we decided on, and partly because we are OMSI members here in Oregon, which is the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry. And as part of that membership, when you have a membership to that museum, you can go to any museum that's within this passport of Association of Science and Technology Centers. And so perhaps maybe one of the museums that near you, if you're a member of it, you should check that, because I didn't know that for a while. And basically you can go to any museum in that passport for free, which is, I think, incredible and generous with your membership. So whenever I travel, I like to look at that passport and see like what museums are on it. And the Bakken was, and obviously the Swedish Institute wasn't on a science membership. And so I was going back and forth, and I ultimately decided the Bakken because I thought that the yarn store was my thing and I needed to pick something that Matilda could really enjoy and have fun with. And the Bakken Museum just had a lot of interactive exhibits for young children. And the other thing they did when we got there that was just really neat was they had a scavenger hunt of little Lego people. So different Lego people were made to look like different scientists or mathematicians or artists. And they were hidden around the museum for you to find. And then when you found it, and there was this little card you could read to learn about that mathematician or scientist or artist. And so like Katherine Johnson was like one of the first ones we found, and she's pretty well known from the movie Hidden Figures, if you've seen that, or there's a children's book and other books too about her as a mathematician and how she really persevered as a Black woman mathematician, I think in the 60s or so. So yeah, so that was really fun, and it was beautiful. And there was it was a sort of like a mansion that had been added onto, and then also different rooms were made into exhibits. And so some of the rooms were not, the exhibit wasn't necessarily really exciting to a 3-year-old. So that was what made that scavenger hunt like a nice layer. And her favorite exhibit was just this like exhibit with blocks that were called Keva blocks, I think is how you pronounce it, K-E-V-A. We actually have those blocks at my university as like a lab tool for children to use. So they're quite nice and kids can build really beautiful things with it. And so Matilda was experimenting and having fun. And so actually the next day when we flew home and we were like, we're home, we're in Portland, Matilda was like, no, I want to go back to the museum. And so that was just, it was really neat. And of course, like, it's just great to have family time too. So that is my kind of update of the past week, and I'm really excited about how much knitting I accomplished, but I'm more excited about the response that I had the last episode in terms of like getting to meet new people. And so I'd love to know more about you, and so feel free to reach out to me on Instagram or Ravelry and introduce yourself, or the comments below. I tried to respond to all the comments that I got in the last episode. It's just truly a great joy to get to meet you. And don't forget to enter in the giveaway if you want by subscribing and entering a comment below. And so thanks so much, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.